Everybody, and welcome back to the Kruger National Park of South Africa. We're in the Sabi Sands. My name is Ralph Kirsten. I'll be taking you on the drive this morning, and we've got Sebastian on the camera. It is nice 17 degrees centigrade and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and we've started out here with these impala here, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, excuse me, and so we've just started with these young impala. It's always great to just start out with them. We always see a lot of them out on the plains. We've just left, and it's still cool. We've got a nice cloud cover, and the birds are starting to sing, and we really are hoping that it's going to be a nice productive day. So please join us as we head out. Join us on Safari Live, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. And please throw us your comments and your questions, as we will do our best to answer them and be as interactive as possible. So right now, his impala would have been rejoicing that they've survived the night. There's lots of little youngsters. Maybe there's some brand new ones that have been born overnight. But we're going to start up. We're going to head up down the road and see what else we can find. I know yesterday afternoon, Noel was with the shadow. I think it was Shadow with the leopard in the tree. But we're going to see what we can find in terms of. Excuse me, it was Kichava. So we're going to see if we can maybe catch up with them once again when we've got this cloud cover like this. It is very conducive to having predators being active during the day. Look at these two youngsters. A little bit of a spar session there. Everybody nice and fresh in the morning. Sometimes you can see them exhibiting a little bit of piloerection, which is raising of the hair on the back, keeping themselves a little bit warm. Look at that. Always play fighting, testing those neck muscles. It's always good to practice, and that's how they'll get better for when they are older and for the real thing. Tails wagging, keeping the flies away. Very nice way to start the morning with the impala. Something quite interesting about them is that counter shading that you see. Very nice dark color on top, going white towards the stomach. So they would be quite difficult to from above. They're actually quite camouflaged with the dark ground on the below, and with that white stomach, it does assist in thermoregulation, reflecting the heat back off the ground. A couple of days ago, that would have been very relevant when the heat was actually radiating off the ground. Those nice lovely black stripes on the back end, with the black dots on the ears. We've got the usual crested francolin, the usual suspects calling in duet with their pair bonding. Chitcher, chitcher, chitcher. And of course, now with the migrants having come back, the woodland kingfisher calling all the time now. Such a sign of summer, hey? Right, folks, I'm going to start up and move along down the road. These impala have started to move off a little bit, so let's do the same. We'll head off to the water holes, see if we can pick up on some tracks. But same as the walk, we're also looking at that tapestry and the newspaper. Fresh on the road, see what tracks and signs we can find, see what movement has been happening. Yesterday we had the elephants around. Maybe they've moved off a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe they'll still be around. Maybe we'll get a breeding herd. Yesterday we just had the bulls, the solitary bulls moving around, just one or two of them near to each other, but maybe we can see breeding herd with babies. Maybe we can find some leopard. Who knows? Maybe some lions. The hyenas were calling this morning as we were getting ready to come out. So predators are on the move. And I hear that there's lots of action with the hyenas on the dam cam last night. So maybe we can pick up, maybe there was some action, some real action going on. So please folks, fire away those questions, get commenting, get those questions coming in. We'd love to hear from you. MO commenting that you'd really like to see some kitties today. I would definitely like to see some kitties too. Now, yesterday we got quite lucky because I heard that there was a comment saying that we would really like to see some elephant. Lo and behold, we had some lovely elephant encounters. So let's hope that that is setting the tone for today once again. We'll find those kitties. So I'm starting to get to know the reserve a little bit better. Don't ask me the name of the roads, but I am definitely getting to know where I am. Sebastian has said that he might have spotted something. It's always worth stopping, even if it is a termite mound in the end. But let's just stop and have a look. We'd rather stop for a rock or a termite mound.
It's a termite mound.
It's a termite mound. Thank you, Sebastian. It's confirmed. But we'll never drive past. If we think we see something, we'd rather go back and check. Looks like there's quite a bit of activity of rhino having been on the road. A bit of been walking around and marking their territories. Now, you know, rhino, especially white rhino, they would have a very big home range, and this is quite similar with a lot of predators as well, having a big home range but a much smaller territory. Now, if you want to liken that to what we would say living in a community or in a village, everywhere where you move around your village is your home range. So you go from your house, you go to your local grocer, you go to pick up your bread, you go for a haircut, you go to get your nails done, and everybody else you can meet in that bigger, larger area, and nobody's worried about you invading their space. That is your home range. That is everybody's home range, everybody being able to move in that area and not being pushed around. But when you go back to your house, that is your territory. You wouldn't like somebody to be opening your door, coming into your room. You would definitely defend that. You would say, what are you doing here? What's going on? Why are you here? And that's exactly like a territory. So the territory, you move in that area, but you defend it as well. A home range, you move in that bigger, larger area, and that's where you sort of do your greater chores and daily efforts and things, but your private space is your territory. Now that's very similar with the rhino and the predators. Okay folks, while we continue on here and we see if we can find on what the predators are doing, I think Tristan is out on foot and he'd like to do his introduction for you.
Good morning everybody, indeed I am Ralph. I am using my lower limbs to mobilize me in predetermined locations, and hopefully it will be a successful walk as we go. As Ralph mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I have got VM the Wildebeest, and we are coming to you live from South Africa, which means that you can all interact with us. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or the YouTube chat should you want to get hold of us. Now the plan for the morning, I'm not quite sure just yet. I've been kind of thinking about where I want to go and what I want to get up to this morning, and I'm not quite sure. What I think we might do is we might head off towards the east and see if maybe we can pick up some signs for Thandi or Hosana. I think that's probably our best bet, and see if maybe we can track them down and see where they've gotten to, and maybe even get a better idea of potentially where Thandi is, given that she might have moved her den. I believe James says he was seeing her in different areas, and so I was wondering if potentially we could see that happening, and maybe try and see a pattern as to where she's going, just to figure out her movements and keep tabs on her as she goes and she raises these little cubs. Now, while we were walking along on quarantine, I did come across some tracks for a hyena that looked like it was dragging something, but I can't find the tracks now. It was way further back. It just is now a complete mess of footprints of things like impalas and wildebeest where they've been running around. And actually, it's quite cool because you can see a lot of places where the impalas have actually had a little bit of a sort of fighting contest and where the males have been sparring with one another. But here we go. Here's what I was looking for. So, if you have a look in here, I'll just circle that around. That's the hyena tracks that we've been looking at. And I think what happened is these hyenas have come up onto quarantine and potentially found one of those baby impalas, either maybe stillborn, or they were able to overpower it and kill it, because the drag mark is very, very small and looks as though it was something like a baby impala or a piece of skin or maybe a leg or something like that. Now, you must excuse me if I sound like I'm a bit out of breath. I have sinuses this morning, and so I'm battling a little bit with getting the proper airflow, but it'll clear up. It's normally the case in the mornings I get it, and then it kind of goes away and is all right again. Hopefully it won't last too long, because the sinuses are the worst thing, and we're actually just talking about it before we left, is that Jamie gets it the worst of all of us, and it's not very pleasant when you get it. It's a horrible thing, and this time of the year we get it quite a bit. Now, Kirst, I'm afraid you're breaking up completely. I can't hear anything that you're saying, so maybe if you can repeat that for me. Nope. Can you hear that, Vildy? So we've lost comms completely with Kirst, which means that you are with us for a while longer, and so hopefully we'll be able to find some interesting things. I'm excited to see what the rain has brought. Unfortunately, it's not warm this morning and it's not sunny, which means that a lot of our insects aren't going to be out. I was hoping that we'd have a bit of sunshine this morning, because generally after a bit of rain and sun, you then get to see a lot of insects coming out, a lot of growth of vegetation, flowers, those kind of things. So I was kind of hoping for a bit of sun, but in terms of walking conditions, this is ideal. There's this overcast sort of grey cover, and there's not too much wind to speak of, and when you're walking, a lack of wind is always quite good. You can see a few lapwings that are busy moving off into the distance and away from us, and they'll be kind of disturbed by our movement down the road, and hopefully we'll get back to quarantine at some point, which is what I'd expect them to do. Now, I don't know what we're going to do with our comms, because, like I say, they don't seem to want to be working today, and if they don't work, well, it's going to be a long morning of talking to all of you just on a walk, and poor VM is going to probably have a very sore arm. Right, now, through broken comms, I think Kirsty says that we can go back across to Ralph. For what he's up to, I'm not quite sure. I don't know what direction he's headed in, but hopefully he'll have a successful morning tracking down whatever he's looking for.
Okay, folks, look at this. We've just come up to this little pan here, and we've spotted something moving around in the water. This is an African spoonbill. Now, when he lifts his bill out the water, you will see why we call him that, but he's happily doing what he does best, and that is foraging. What he does is he moves that bill around in the water, and as soon you see, he opens his bill a little bit, and as soon as he feels any movement, he's caught it. Watch how he moves through there. You see, feeding again. He's absolutely adept at doing it. Very, very good. There'll be little tadpoles, there'll be little fish, little frogs, and all sorts. So we've got a lovely little bird hunting for little arthropods and insects and frogs and amphibians and fish. And if he moves over a little bit there, I'm going to move forward so we can keep a view on him. Oops, don't want to disturb him. He's just spotted us now. Shame, I don't want to disturb him. He's happily going along by his business. I think it was just the starting of the vehicle there. Let's switch off there again. Comments coming in that there's lots of people that love this bird. Well, I'm exactly along the same lines, folks. I really love watching these birds, especially when they're doing what they're doing now, what he's doing now. And I'm just going to have a look in my book, but he's really going for it, eh? Lovely early morning hunt. Got to get the energy for him to maybe go off and do some nesting. You know, it's that time of year where a lot of energy requirements for all the birds and animals. Moving forward, he's turned around. That's it. That's what we like to see. He's turned around. He's hunting in the shallows there, and there would be a lot of tadpoles, huh? And going behind the trees again. I'm going to move forward some more, just so that we can keep a nice clear view on him. Excuse us for the pole, folks. We still do have our rain cover, as there is still a very good possibility of rain. We've got still quite a good cloud cover, so that the chance of rain is still there. Beard, what does the spoon shape on the end of the bill do? Well, you know, it is definitely maximizing the chances of him actually feeling and collecting or trapping the little insects and tadpoles and little fish and all the things that are in the mud. So he can stick that bill right into the mud, and then he will start. It's very sensitive on the end of that bill, even though it seems like a hard structure. He's just gone a little bit behind the bushes there, but he is going to make his way around. So with that end of the bill, so it's very straight, and then on the end of the bill it's a little bit more round like that, and that's obviously just maximizing the surface area from which he can grab something. You know, something very small like that, it's like taking your two little fingers and trying to grab something, as opposed to taking your whole hand and grabbing something. It's just maximizing the surface area. So they've obviously been doing this for the millennia, and he's back out in the open there, Seb. He's evolved this extra surface area to maximize the feeding surface area of the bull. So good question. It is quite a very, very strange shape on the bull, but you know, everything has evolved through the years. Joy, how do you tell if it's a female or a male? You see that bill, and around the face there, with the males now coming into the breeding season, they start to get extremely red around that parts. But I'm just going to get some extra information for you, looking in my book. But generally, as far as I know, that is how you check. But it's difficult out of breeding season, and this one hasn't really gone completely into its breeding plumage just yet, so we're not exactly 100% sure. But the redness around the face and on the leading edge of the bill, that would definitely go very red once it goes into breeding plumage. Now, in the Sassel's book, it says that the only way is to tell is that the male has a longer bill than the female. However, if we're only looking at one individual, how would we know whose is longer? So it's one of those where there's not a massive indication of sexual dimorphism, and you know, like for instance, your wildebeest, where they both look exactly the same, and you know, maybe just a slight difference in the thickness of the bill. He's sticking his head right under the water. I do have a very good feeling that this is a male because of that redness that is starting around the face. I think he's starting to go into breeding plumage, and sometimes also that pinkness on the legs, if you can look on the bottom there, just below the feathers. So the legs also are featherless, and that would be for moving around in the mud. Trent, Question there, are the feet webbed or long toes? They definitely are slightly webbed because of them moving around in the mud and soft substrates. You generally find that all the birds with that kind of habitat, on an extended basis, would definitely have webbed feet. So he does have slight webbing. It's not as sort of advanced as for instance your Egyptian geese and so on, who are using it for swimming apparatus as well, and fins. These are merely just to keep them from sinking too much into the mud. But you can see how long those legs are as well. So we've got great adaptations here. We've got that bill, we've got the webbing on the toes, and we've also got the featherless legs, which enables them to walk around in the mud and not have to maintain those feathers, it would be quite a nightmare if those feathers were getting full of mud every day and you would have to try and clean that on a daily basis. They would eventually probably start to rot as well, so that wouldn't be very nice. But as most of your birds, apart from your cormorants and penguins, all these birds have got that preen gland. Well, they're actively using that preen gland on their backs to keep their feathers nice and well maintained, but also to keep them oiled, and that also gives them quite a high level of waterproofness on their feathers. And when they get wet, see a little bit around the face. Obviously he wouldn't be able to take that oil from his preen gland. He wouldn't be able to put it on his face because it's quite impossible to, you can't lick your own back and clean your face. It's quite difficult. So around the face you can see that those feathers do get a bit wetter. Jamal, can they see under the water? A question from Jamal. I'm not quite sure if they can see under the water, and I would actually suggest that they actually close their eyes when the head goes underwater. I'm just having a look a little bit closer, but the idea is, even in this pan, the water is so murky that they're not hunting by sight at all. They're hunting by feel, and you can actually see that. So whether or not he opens his eyes, I doubt whether he's going to be seeing very much at all. As you can see there, he's having a good old prod and moving around. He's giving this little pan a good old workover, hey? And he seems to be doing pretty well about it. He's getting a good feed, getting some good protein in. They'll be charging him up for the day. Lovely breakfast session, this. Fishing. It's fascinating watching little birds like this. You see that also, he's got to, once he gets something, he's got to literally throw it back into the back of his throat. They're quite accurate in that they get it and they do just one throw and it's in the back. They're quite good at that, eh? Right, while we continue watching this African spoonbill hunting in the water, I think Tristan has got something to show you on the ground.
We do indeed. We have a very, very cool thing. And then these guys are something that I actually didn't really know too much about until about a month ago, maybe a little bit longer, 6 weeks ago. But they're called Omorgus beetles or carcass beetles, and they've come out in full force this year. I've seen them a few times, but never really knew much about them. But you can see here, we have a whole bunch of them, these little grey beetles that are kind of stacked along all over the place. And what they're on at the moment, it might look very foreign to some of you that are slightly newer viewers and don't really know a lot about our dung that we get out of here. But this is white. It's quite hard, and this is made by a hyena. Now, the reason that it is so white like this is because of its high calcium content and high calcium diet that it has. Remember, hyenas eat a lot of bone when they scavenge or even hunt for themselves, and so when they defecate they tend to have a lot more white. Now these beetles, these Omorgus or carcass beetles is the English name for them, they come out and they actually start to feed off of this, and it's an interesting thing because generally you don't find too much in the way of insect life on predator dung, and the reason for that is that predators generally absorb a lot of the nutrients out of what they eat. There's very seldom much that comes out that is usable for anything else. That coupled with the high bacteria content means there's not really many things that can get to it. But of course, like anything out here in nature, there's got to be a way of breaking things down and utilizing it, and there's a niche for everybody, and this particular sort of food niche is for this particular beetle. And you'll find that they congregate in quite big groups on the dung itself. They'll often then copulate on the dung, like these two at the back here. They've been busy kind of doing their thing and mating, and they'll lay their larvae very, very close to this particular ball of dung, and what will happen is they'll hatch out and be able to then come and feed off of this, which is quite cool. And eventually over time they'll break this down completely and will end up with just some powdery bits, and you can actually see the damage that they're doing all along the fringes of this hyena dung. There's little bits that are now starting to flake off and fall off from these guys actually feeding on it. It's really very, very cool. And much like a dung beetle, which hopefully we'll find this morning because dung beetles should be out after the rain, they have a very similar shaped head. So they've got this kind of spade like head. It's got a rounded sort of front with a flattened edge to it, and what that means is that they're able to, one, dig down into the ground to lay their eggs, but two, to be able to break off and shave off pieces of quite hard dung. I mean, if I poke this, it's not going anywhere. I can't even push the stick into it, so it's quite hard, and they'll need that to be able to flake off. And you can actually see here on the edge of this little piece how they've broken off little slivers and sort of powdered it off, and those are the little shavings that we're seeing on the edges there, which is very, very cool. Now, while we were sitting here, I did also see a very well camouflaged insect. Now, Vildi, if you can go over here for me, just where my stick is pointing down into the grass there, it doesn't look like anything at all. It looks as though there's just a bit of grass and a bit of kind of vegetation, but right inside there is one of the most camouflaged grasshoppers I've seen in a very, very long time. So it's just got its kind of legs pointing out. You can see I'm pointing my stick roughly at it. It's somewhere over there. So I think you've got it in frame, Vildi. And there we go. And that little guy is camouflaged to the T. It took me a while to actually spot it. While I was sitting here, I just saw a little bit of movement, and it was just walking along, trying to kind of get out of a little clump that I almost stood on, and is now just decided to sit right there. But that is a really extreme form of camouflage, and it goes to show an insect that is as camouflaged as that is reliant on obviously trying to hide because it doesn't have any other defense. So it won't have a chemical defense like some of the other insects we have out here. It also doesn't have any bright coloration to indicate to predators that it is toxic or poisonous, and so it's got to have a situation where it's got to blend in order to stay safe and to stay alive. But very cool. So amazed how relaxed it is as well. Normally grasshoppers and locusts and those kind of things, as soon as you poke sticks near them, they typically jump away or try and move out of that area, but that little guy is just relying on its camouflage and hoping to stay still. It's also because we've probably had a day of very cold weather, and this morning it's not really warm yet. It's not cold, but it's not very warm, and the insects take a bit of time to kind of warm up and start flying. And so it's the best time if you want to go look for insects and you want to learn about insects and see how many insects you've got. Early mornings is one of the best times to go out and look for them. Right, we're going to leave our carcass beetles to their rather sort of, I don't know how to describe their mating ritual on hyena dung, but we're going to leave them to it and see what they get up to, and hopefully we'll come back in a few weeks and have a look at that particular dung and see what's happened to it. Stanky, you're wondering if we ever come across hyenas during the day. Now, I believe, unfortunately, that our camera has got a problem. So, Kirst, I'm going to have to send you back across to Ralph while we fix all of this, and we'll address the question when you come back. So I do apologize about that, Stanky, but we'll see what Ralph's up to, and we'll see you all in a little bit.
Okay, folks, I've just picked up on some fresh tracks of our little kitty cats, but the little spotted ones, but it was going back into the riverbed there. So I just want to check on the outside here near to this little it's Twin Dams, Seb? We're going to Twin Dams. We're going to have a quick look there, and then I'm going to go back onto that fresh tracks and see if we can we can locate that little kitty. Looks like it might be a female. I haven't had a close look at it, but it's not a massive leopard track, as I would think of Hosanna and Tingana. A little bit bigger tracks of theirs, a little bit more rounded with that squarer shoulders. This was a little bit more feminine. So as we come up here to the waterhole, it does seem a little bit quiet. I might drop down into the riverbed and move along there, because that cat did definitely move down into the drainage line. Doesn't seem like there's too much action in this area, so we'll take our cue from the tracks that we saw. Just having a little bit of earpiece problems, but let's go down. Okay folks, I do believe Tristan is going to continue answering his question. They've fixed up their problems, so off you go to him while I continue looking for this cat.
Indeed we have. So we had a little focus issue, but it's all been sorted now, and VM has managed to fix it on the run, which is good news. So a few little gremlins this morning, but taken care of my gremlin. We've taken care of Vildi's gremlin, and that should be the end of them for the morning. Now, we were talking about whether we see hyenas during the day. Yes, we do. So hyenas during the day are actually not that difficult to find. If you know where their den is, then we see them quite often. You might have watched and seen that Noel has been at the den. James, I think, was there yesterday, but I don't know if he had anything. But there has been lots of sightings of hyenas in the day. Now, VM spotted a bird. There we go. That's very cool. So it looks like a bearded woodpecker that is going to town and finding its breakfast. They're often a little bit flighty, and with vehicles we battle to find them a lot, and so nice to see it going about its business. Now, you can see that it's got those molar stripes, so those big black lines that come down from the beak onto the throat, little red cap, and then quite a large woodpecker. So for us here, we have 4 different species of woodpecker, and the bearded being the largest, and so if you see the size of them, you can often tell which one is which. The golden-tailed bennets and cardinal are all much smaller than what the bearded is. The bearded is a very bulky, big woodpecker, and it's actually interesting because you can hear the drumming of these woodpeckers, particularly the bearded. They hit the wood much harder than the rest, and you can often hear it before you ever see it, and I think that's how VM was alerted to it, is that if I keep quiet, you might be able to hear its pecking sound. So you can just hear it's just tapping into that wood. Now, this particular wood, ever so slightly, I believe, is what you can hear. So it's not very loud today. It does get much louder, particularly if they're on something like a leadwood or a dead knobthorn, something that's very hard-wooded and has dried out. Then it's almost like a resonating organ. As they hit that tap then explodes out. This tree itself is still a little softer. It's alive, and so the wood gives a lot more. There's a lot more moisture content in this, and so therefore not as loud. But you can see as it's pecking, bits are flying off, and it's exposing those boring insects, so things like wood boring beetles, any sort of larval insect that's laid in the tree itself, which will be exposed by a branch breaking or elephants pulling down a branch. Then those beetles get in there, and this guy then goes along and will try and actually find a place. What it also could be doing is it could be also building a nest, because I see another one has just arrived, so it's just on the left hand side there, is hopping about, and so they do also peck their nests out of wood, so they'll make a perfectly round hole. But the thing is about the one that's just arrived now is it's a much smaller individual. The problem is it's against a completely white sky, so trying to see which one it is very difficult. It is also hiding itself extremely well at this stage, but it is a much smaller bird, so maybe it could be one of our cardinal woodpeckers, so a different individual that has arrived. And it's not often that you'll see 2 different woodpecker species in the same tree. I'm just trying to get a sort of look at it and try and see exactly which woodpecker it is, but it looks as though it's a different species altogether, and the fact that it hasn't come down to the other one, if it was a pair, there would have been some sort of greeting and some sort of commotion between the 2 of them. But I think it's going to come out now. There we go. You can see it's just on the left hand side. It's very difficult to get any sort of coloration on it because of the white sky. When you get skies like this, it's not great for birding, but that is definitely a different woodpecker species, so very cool to see. Oscar Dario, you want to know, do woodpeckers suffer from concussion while they peck away at wood like this? So the answer to that is no. And the reason why is that a woodpecker has two very, very clever things. The first thing is that their brain is actually suspended in a fluid, and when they hit the wood like this, that fluid acts as a shock absorbing sort of thing, and their brain can almost shift a little bit within that without actually impacting against the skull, which means that there's no damage caused to the brain itself. It's also no headache or anything like that that gets formed. The other thing that they've got is they've got a tongue that is incredibly long. So the tongue attaches to the base of their skull at the back of the head. It wraps over the top of the head, out through the nostril and into the beak like that. And that actually is exactly the same thing as the fluid, acts as a massive sponge. So as they're hitting, it's absorbing all of that shock and therefore helping to keep that head nice and safe. So it's almost like a helmet that's, you know, motorbike riders wear or something like that. It's just this massive tongue that comes over and protects their head. So really, very, very clever in the way that they are designed in order to stay nice and safe. So very cool. But we're going to leave our woodpecker to carry on. I think it might actually be building a nest. The amount of pecking that it's doing in the same spot would be indicative of something that is pecking a nest making a nest, because they need to make quite a big round hole for that, and it's the perfect place for a woodpecker nest. Right, it's that time of the morning where our Mara team joins in and joins us for our sunrise safari. So let's jump across all the way to the northern part of Africa and see what Jamie and Brent will be up to this morning, but in particular, Jamie Patterson.
Good morning, and welcome to the Mara portion of the sunrise safari. My name is Jamie, and this morning Craig is on camera with me. And as Tristan said, it is indeed that time of the morning when the Mara team joins you. So we're live from the Masai Mara in Kenya, and we had a beautiful, beautiful opening all lined up. We had the zebra silhouetted against the sun and all of that. But then I heard some very, very strange hyena sounds coming from this direction, so I've completely abandoned that, and we're going off just to investigate what's happening around here. I haven't heard it since, but then my engine's been on, so I'm not 100% sure what's going on. If we don't find the hyena, the plan today is to go up, quickly check on the musketeers, and then go to the Black Rock Pride. I know lots of you will be very, very excited. You haven't seen the Black Rock Pride in a while. So we're going to go and see the Black Rock Lion Pride with their 9 cubs. Hopefully they're in a good spot for us. We'll go and see how much bigger those cubs have got. But before we do that, we're going to go through Balloon Crossing, and there's a couple of reasons why. One is the musketeers. 2 is the fact that yesterday Brent had absolutely no signal, but he had 3 leopards. He had a female and 2 cubs playing in the rain. And I'm quite desperate to be able to show you that. I mean, I don't know if they'll still be there, but it's worth checking, is it not? Since our vehicle seems to be holding down the fort when it comes to signal in the Mara. There's nothing here. This is very peculiar. There is nothing here except wildebeest. Maybe it was just a wildebeest with a funny voice. Because now all I can hear is wildebeest. Listen to this. Huh. It's odd. Apparently Kirsty tells me that you can only hear them faintly. They're very loud. Maybe it's my imagination that they're as loud as they are. I'm pretty sure they're loud. They are quite far away though. Something about wildebeest, every time I talk about the sounds that they're making, they go quiet. It's like some kind of sixth sense that they have, that I'm trying to show you what they sound like. Ridiculous. Okay, well, there's no sound from that strange... Oh. Sorry, I'm distracted by Kirsty saying it's Gnoofy's Law. Oh dear. I seem to have a loose strap, but that's I'll fix it later. Okay. Well, there's none of that strange sound that we heard. I don't know what it was all about. Maybe it was just it sounded like a hyena to me. But maybe it was just a wildebeest with a very sore throat. I had to duck off-road in order to get here. Now I've got to find my way back onto the road. And back in the direction we're meant to be going in. I'm glad to hear you're all very, very excited for the Black Rock Pride. I am as well. Bit of a not a logistical nightmare. It's just one of those things that we have to balance everything out because it's very far away, Black Rock. I mean, it's a good... If I drive flat out, which obviously I'm not going to do on a morning safari, but if I drive flat out, it's going to take me about an hour to get there. Then to stay there, I'm going to have to get back to Talek to get a ranger to stay with us after dark. So it's a tricky... It's a tricky thing, working out the logistics of all of that, but never you fear, we shall. Oh, is that a Tommy or a jackal? Tommy. Okay. Everyone staring at me. Okay, off we go with our original intended mission this morning. We've already partly stolen Brent's route. He was going to go this way. Let's go across to him so that he can say a very good morning to you.
Morning, and welcome to a very cold Masai Mara this morning. It is absolutely gorgeous. Look at that. Shepherd's Tree sunrises. My name is Brent Smith. I have Manu on camera, and we are fiercely competing for the title of champion big cat spotter. It is currently 1-1, and also if you want to ask us any questions, hashtag Safari Live. There's the odd balloon floating above us, and it is just a wonderful morning to be out in the Mara. Now, as Jamie is heading down towards the Musketeers and possibly those 3 leopard that Manu and I saw yesterday, we're going looking for Miale and Sun and maybe Amani, who were last seen in this area. Oh, there's a hyena. Just to the right of that Balanites tree in the distance, Manu. There we go. There's a hyena strolling across the short grass plains. You can see the wildebeest in the background. Lots of game around. A very beautiful morning. You might hear the of one of the balloon tractors after launching the balloon heading back towards camp. Well, actually probably heading towards where they think the balloon is going to land. Now, one other nice thing about this area is that yesterday, Manu and I discovered our first ostrich nest in the Mara, and the male was sitting on it. So we're going to just swing past it on our way, see if the female has taken over egg-sitting duties, or is the boy still sitting there. So that'd be quite an interesting thing to see. But of course, we are looking for cheetah, lion, leopard, whatever might come our way. So if we get no luck with Amani and Miale, these hills up here in the distance, we're actually going to go not all the way to them, but quite high up, and then slowly sort of move down towards the south and see if there's anything happening towards that side. Jamie is going towards the Black Rock. What is that, Manu? You're lucky, Manu, because if that was a big cat, I would be in the lead. But it is just another hyena. Oh, you are very lucky. It's a lazy hyena. November Mom is wondering, are there small trees in the Mara that I can drive over like I do at Djuma? No. Fortunately not for the trees. Oh, we're being attacked. Oh, let's have a look at this greeting ceremony to the right here, Manu. Let's move off the road. So, there's a bit of a hyena greeting ceremony going on.
Well, unfortunately, Brent has got a few gremlins, and so you're back with us, and we are following up at the moment on sounds of an elephant herd. So we were walking along, and we heard this grumbling from quite far away. So we're trying to fast track our way down towards Treehouse Dam area. That's where it sounds like it's coming from, somewhere in that general vicinity. And so we're trying to get into that section as fast as we can. Now, we are coming up towards the old hyena den, which is an interesting place. I want to just come and have a little look, just from a perspective that we might have some sort of sign of what's going on here. I don't know if any hyenas are actually using it at the moment, but maybe, just maybe, there's some sort of view that we can look at, and maybe some sort of tracks. That's interesting. There's lion tracks here, but they're not very fresh, but there is lion tracks. It looks like a whole pride of lions that moved in this direction. So these tracks are not, like I say, very fresh ones. You can see that there is rain, on top of them. But if you have a look, the reason why we know they're lion tracks, one is just the size. If I put my hand next to this track, you can see it's the same size as my hand. And then at the back, I have 1, 2, 3 lobes, 1, 2, 3, 4 toes, and no claws on the front. Now, I was saying that there is signs of rain on top. So yesterday when we had rain, if you have a look here, there's little pitting, so little dots that are all over this track, which would indicate rain. Now, this is very, very cool to see, because actually, if you have a look here, there is the female track that we've got over there, but just over here, which I'm going to try and do a little circle around it without disturbing the female track, is one of the little cub tracks. So I'm not sure if this is the Styx or the Nkahuma Pride, which is interesting because I don't know which lions walked here last, and I'm not sure the Nkahumas came through this section. They might have, but I don't think so. But anyway, they have, both of them have small cubs at the moment, but you can see the size difference. If I take a piece of grass now, and you just need to find a piece of grass that's long enough. Just give me 2 seconds, VM, sorry. There, VM's found me one. So if I take a piece of grass and we break it in terms of size, so there we go, that's the length of it, and then the width over here. I'm going to need another piece of grass, VM. Hold on, we've got one right here. That should work. And then we take the length of the mother's track, because we know it's quite difficult to see at home, but I mean, this is a rough estimate. But there you go, that's a nice indication of just how much smaller those little cub tracks are at the moment. And someday, those little tracks are going to be ending up that size. How cool is that? So it's not something we see that often. They're not from last night, definitely not. But it begs the question as to which lions these are and where they came from. Because, like I say, we haven't seen the Styx Pride here for quite a few days now. And the Nkahuma Pride, as far as I know, came in from the west and went straight north from Gallagher in that area. I don't think they came down this section. So I want to ask Herbie, maybe Herbie knows when these lions were about. But I can hear a leopard. There's a leopard calling very close to us. Let's see if we can maybe try and find this. This leopard isn't far at all. It sounds like a male leopard that's calling. So I wonder if maybe Tingana isn't far. It sounds like just on Philemon's cut line here, so we can just cut through the bush. It's all happening now. We've got elephants, leopard, we've got lion tracks. It just shows you when you're out on foot and you're not actually having a vehicle on, the amount of things that you can hear and see is absolutely amazing. So we're going to try and quickly move into this area. Now, sorry, Curse, I didn't catch the name. If you can just repeat that for me again. Woody Duck, is that right, Kirst? I think I got that right, I'm not sure. Woody Block, there we go, sorry about that. You want to know whether I'm safe out here on foot? Well, yes, relatively. The reason why is because I have a security detail in the form of Herbert Causa, who is our master tracker and our gentleman that has a rifle, that carries a rifle and looks after us. So while I'm talking and moving around, he's in front of me just making sure that I don't walk into anything dangerous. But we also have spent a number of years out on walk and in the bush, and that means that we have some sort of experience, and as long as you're aware of your surroundings. This leopard is right here, so we're going to just quickly move as fast as we can and try and get there. We can hear it calling just in front of us, and it's really close. Now hopefully we'll be able to find it. It sounds as though it's going up towards quarantine area, so Kirst, I don't know if you want to tell Ralph maybe to head up to quarantine. Just careful here, VM. I'm going to lift that up for you. So we're going to lift that up for VM because he's got an antenna and we don't want him to get stuck there. Sorry, Vildy. But we're going to try and move, like I say, as quick as we can to get to this area. But whoever it is being very vocal this morning. The problem is if it is Tingana, who obviously is our dominant male and the male that makes a lot of noise, he's quite skittish. He doesn't really like to be seen on foot, and so we'll probably get one shot at trying to find him while we're walking. Let's check the road and make sure. I still think he's maybe a little north of us, heading more towards quarantine at the moment. He's not far. He's not far at all, so we're very close. Just need to quickly move. Sorry, VM, I know I'm making you run, but we've got to go quite quickly because he is mobile. So he's not far at all. Now we're just keeping our voices down because ultimately we don't want him to hear us, and so we're trying to get there as quick as possible, but we also need to keep our voices quite low. This is so exciting. Leopard on foot is the best thing. I love tracking leopards on foot, and seeing them is even better. So this is going to be super cool. I just need to catch up with Herbie quickly, just so that I can see. I think Herbie might have had a brief glimpse of him because Herbie told me to come quickly, and so I think he can see something. But let's check. This leopard is not far at all. We heard it calling right now, and it sounds like it is just in this little drainage that's off to our side here. So we're going to try and quickly kind of move along here. Like I say, I'm pretty sure. Careful there, VM. There's a big buffalo thorn which you don't want to get stuck in. But this leopard probably will get one glimpse of it before it probably trots away for us. And while it's calling like this is the best time to try and find it. Now, I believe a lot of you are all very excited, as am I. I kind of get a little bit like a kid when I hear leopards calling close on foot. And so there's a situation where you kind of get a little bit like shaky, and we're trying to move as quick as we can, but also try and be careful and quiet as we try and find this leopard. Hopefully he'll call one more time for us. The frequency of calling is very, very, very frequent. We're hearing it quite a lot, so hopefully we'll hear it again shortly. Now, the thing is about walking in places like this is that you've got to be quite careful. We're now in a dense thicket area. There's lots of places for a leopard just to hide, and so we need to try and be very careful about what we're doing, as well as look and not make too much noise, because this leopard, as soon as it sees us, is going to try and go away. And like I say, with Tingana or whoever it could be, he's not going to really be that tolerant of us being around. He's not going to really want to be around us. He wants as little attention as possible, so we're going to have to just check very carefully, but he's definitely not far. Now I'm hoping he's going to call one more time for us. So when we're walking in like this, it's always important with leopards is to look very, very carefully. At the end of the day, they will sometimes, when they spot you, go down into the grass and sit as low as possible and just try flatten and hope that you'll walk past them without seeing. And the trick is when you track leopards is often, once you find one, particularly if it's at close distance, because sometimes you'll walk into a leopard at maybe 1 meter or 2 meters, you kind of just bypass them and pretend like you haven't seen them until you get to an area where you can view them safely. So he might be watching us now, and that's why it's important to just check under all the bushes, walk slowly, have a little look around, and not just rush things too much. We rushed to try to get to the area where we heard him, but I think he's somewhere in this general vicinity, so I want to just walk as slow as I can through here, and hopefully we'll bump into him somewhere along this way. I'm I've also got to keep an eye out for Herbie, because Herbie's also walking much faster than I am. But it just goes to show you, we haven't picked up a track at all for this leopard, but he is somewhere here. Joy, are you wondering why this leopard could be calling, or what it's calling for? Well, it's a territorial call, so it's basically like a lion's roar. It's telling everybody, I'm the dominant male here, this is my territory, don't come in here. And he's doing that because fighting with another male could potentially mean that he gets himself injured. It's much easier to make a noise and to scent mark and try and keep an audio and a visual sort of barrier, rather than actually trying to fight with another leopard. But I'm just stopping just to listen. There are a few rattling testiculars that are calling. Sometimes they will alarm call a little bit. But it seems quite quiet. This leopard is here somewhere. It's just a matter of finding exactly where it is. I'm sure we can find it somewhere in this block. It might take a little bit of time, and we might have to just look very, very carefully. Now, while I try and search here and just have a little look and see if we can just pick up a track or some sort of sign of this leopard, let's go across to Ralph, who I think is driving, and hopefully he's going to have a bit of luck too.
Okay, folks, it's not as exciting on my side as it has been with Tristan, but all the same, we went down into the riverbed and we've totally eliminated the area that I thought that female might have moved in, that the tracks that we had found. So we've come out a little bit onto the side, and we're heading up towards a little water hole in front. We've been listening out for any calls of the leopards that might be moving around. We haven't heard anything as yet, so we're just continuing along a little bit. And something that I was thinking about while I was driving, you know, we have been having quite a little bit of rain, and I don't know if any of you have been out on safari in the rain. Please share your stories with us. Please send your comments. Something that still sits with me all the time. You know, I like to share my experiences of the past, and I remember one of the companies that I worked for, we had a roof quite similar to this, but the roof sort of stopped, you know, almost in line with the dash here in front, and it was always difficult for me because the guests would be very comfortable in the back. They would have their lovely ponchos, and I would be driving along like this and also be quite comfortable. I also had my poncho on, but as soon as I would touch the brakes, all of the water that had pooled up in the canvas on top would literally come down and land right in my lap. So it was very, very uncomfortable, and I tried to make them change the roofing setup, but it was obviously too much of a change for the system. So anyway, needless to say, I did leave that company, not because of the roofing problem, but because I just moved along. But please send in your experiences of rainy day safaris or rainy day wildlife experiences. You know, it's also quite difficult. Today, as I said, it's not quite like yesterday, but when it's raining, we don't generally go out in the field on foot. You know, we do need to walk with an arm or a rifle, just for our safety, and that becomes quite difficult to manage when it's raining. They do sort of jam very easily, and the other thing is that it's very difficult to hear any wildlife that might be potentially dangerous. Now, the thing that we normally pick up very easily in the bush is obviously a warning sign. If you get too close to an animal, they generally know that you're coming, they hear you, and they would just give you a little snarl, a little grunt, or even a scratch on the ground, and you would be able to hear that nicely, pick that up early, and be able to sort of extract yourself or not get too close, you know, especially with those warning signs. And when it's raining, we can very often miss that, and then we're putting not only ourselves in danger but also the animal, because ultimately we're going to protect ourselves, and we don't want to be missing those warning signs. So it's not the best idea to be walking in the rain, especially in these areas. And is it raining in your part of the world? That we'd like to know. Right, as I continue on my little CSI missions going down through and into the water areas, I think Tristan's got another little CSI mission for you too.
We were still busy tracking this male. We found his tracks, so it definitely looks like a big male. I would say probably Tingana that's been here. But you can see we've also found a rather small, what looks like a bit of stomach content for a baby impala. You can see there's very little inside this. There's actually nothing at all to speak of grass or anything like that. So I know if you're a bit squeamish, probably the best to look away now. But it looks like from maybe a little baby impala. We had that drag mark that we saw earlier from the hyenas, and I wonder if maybe a leopard killed this and the hyenas stole it, and Tingana is following the scent of that, maybe that drag mark, and it's led him to this area, and that's why he's come here. Now, what the thing is about this is that while it was killed last night, it's actually been lying here for quite some time. If you have a look here, if I lift it up and just turn it over, you'll see, look at the amount of activity in terms of ants that is all over this section. Now, ants take some time to find food. They're not going to just quickly be on it, and so it's taken a while, but you can see lots and lots and lots of ants all over it, which means that these ants have been here for quite some time. So I would think that this was killed probably early hours of this morning, and this little piece was dropped. But a leopard would definitely not leave this, and even hyenas. They're going to have a situation if Tingana, maybe he saw us and has moved off, but otherwise he would have fed on this and probably eaten it. The interesting thing, though, is that he is very vocal this morning. So when we were trying to find him, he must have called, I would say, maybe 7 or 8 times in the space of about 5 minutes. And so it means that something has irritated him completely. And I wonder if maybe there isn't another leopard here, maybe Hosanna or maybe another male that had killed this, and he's picked up his scent, and that's why he's so vocal this morning and so sort of uptight about what's going on. The problem is I think we might have missed the shot to find him. It's a situation where he's moving as quickly as he is, he's calling, he's making a lot of vocalizing, and that means that he's probably seen us, and if he's seen us, we know Tingana, we won't find him again. If we find him on foot once, there's no chance to really find him again after that, unless he's on a kill, which he'll come back to. In this case, I don't think this is enough to actually bring him back. The interesting thing, though, is if you have a look here, you can see how there's lots and lots of disturbances, and then blood drops as they go. And actually, if you look inside the blood here, you can see little hairs that are there. So it looks like little beige colored hair. I'm just going to try and move it. It's a bit congealed, but inside there's little beige hairs. So I think this would have been a little baby impala. Unfortunately, that would have been killed right here. It would have probably eaten, a lot of it was eaten here. That's why there's so much of a disturbance around this section. But let's have a look. Maybe we can find something. I'm not 100% sure, but I think we might have missed the bus on this particular leopard. But hopefully we'll find something. Now, somebody who's had a little bit more luck than I have when it comes to the spotted cats is Brent Leo Smith, and he's got the fastest and sleekest of them all.
Good morning and welcome back. Look at this. We have a female lion. Manu? Is it a lion or is it a cheetah? Manu?
Lion cat.
It's a lion cat. Yes, Manu in his great excitement went, lion, lion, lion. And I was like, no, Manu, that's a cheetah. So we actually, we were debating, if you misidentify a big cat, does it count? The way we used to play as kids is no. Who is this? I'm not sure who it is yet. I'm going to try to work out which female cheetah this is. But we want to know, do you think Manu should be credited with the spot? Yes or no? He misidentified the slightest cat for the heaviest cat. And so why don't you guys let us know? Hashtag Safari Live. Now, when we spotted her, she was hiding from hyenas. And there were quite a few of them around. Oh, that's her right side. You can see it's gorgeous out here this morning. If it is, I'm not sure who this is. So there's a lot of game around this area. Okay, what I'm going to do is keep parallel to her. And as I said, quite a few hyenas were around here, and she was hiding flat from the hyenas. We saw her sitting up, then she went flat down to keep away from all the attentions of the hyenas. Now, there's a potential that there could be some prey on the other side of these thickets, so I'm just going to scoot around. Remember, this is coming to you 100% live from the Masai Mara in Kenya. And it's Manu's cheetah lion. So I think this is the mysterious female that we were searching for yesterday. We're in the same sort of area. She's looking a mite bit peckish. So I just want to get around and ahead, see what's on the other side while she moves towards us. There are some Tommies down ahead, Topi as well. Now, an adult Topi would be too big for... But here she comes. Now, unfortunately, we are going to have to keep a little bit far away from her, as if we go too low into this valley, there'd be gremlins. So I'm going to keep on the ridge up above her. Have a look with my binos what's ahead. Tommies, adult Topi. It's always quite difficult for cheetah when there's adult Topi around, because they tend to spot them before the Tommies do and sort of give the game away. Oh, she's gorgeous. And hungry. So since we've come across from the other side, this is our 7th cheetah, Manu, in 2 nights. 7th different cheetah. Or it could be a Mani. I don't think so, though. I need to see her left side. Okay, we're moving up ahead of her again. So we've got the main road to Sekanani coming up. We're just going to scoot across it. Oh, that's a good way to start a chilly morning with a spotted cat. Even if Manu did call it a non-spotted cat, I don't think you're ever going to live this one down, Manu. Oh. Can you go again with that, please? The comms broke up there. So let's just stick with her for a little bit longer. There are some Thompson's gazelles coming up, and they haven't spotted her yet. So we're just going to position ourselves up on top of the crest here. Let's see what she does. I'm just going to go have a smell, see what other cheetah have been around that tree. Gregory is wondering, how do you ID cheetahs in the wild? By their spot patterns, Gregory. So each cheetah has unique spots on its body, and those are generally the easiest to identify. Having a good sniff. Probably sniffing the musketeers in this area. Now, she's looked... Oh, I think she's been spotted by the Topi. She got so involved in smelling where the musketeers had been. You can see the topi look like they've definitely spotted her, which is not good news for her, I'm afraid. Oh, but it sounds like, I'm not sure who, someone else has a big cat. Let's go see.
It's me. It's me and my lack of a voice this morning. I have a big cat. I have a lioness that is strolling along the road in front of us. And she's a little bit, not nervous, but she definitely... Hello, girl. Hey. What's up, girl? How you doing? Yeah, she definitely needs a little bit of additional comfort space to the lions that we typically spend time with. Tatty, tatty, tatty ear. Very easily identifiable. I think she's one of the lionesses if you cast your mind back, way back when I got lost in the Bermuda Triangle. And I was sitting with the 5 musketeers and 2 lionesses popped out. I think she's one of them. She's enormous, whoever she is. But as to which pride she belongs to, I really don't know. I wonder if she doesn't have cubs somewhere down in that direction. It would explain why she's walking all by herself, rather than with the company of the rest of her pride, unless she's going to rejoin them. Let's follow her for a little bit. I still do want to get to the Black Rock Pride, and I've found myself delayed. My fault entirely. I took the wrong road. Not the wrong road. I just took a slightly longer road. Without thinking. It was force of habit. I think she might be part of a pride that spends a lot of time in a place called Hammerkop. I think. That tatty ear is very distinctive. Oh, and by the way, no sign of the leopards, unfortunately. I think if they are around, they're deep in the lugger, where we won't have signal. Very good question, and I should have explained that straight away from Chitty Chatty Meg. Now, Chitty Chatty Meg, it's been a little while since I've heard your name, actually. Maybe I've just missed out, but the signs that I was looking for, that, actually, even following her at the distance that we are, this, the constant looking back over her shoulder. Now, I don't know if it's aimed at us. I don't think it's entirely aimed at us. She's definitely perhaps not unsettled, but alert about something. But it was, the signs that I was looking for were the half glance, the half backward glance over her shoulder. Now, in a line that's completely comfortable, when you're following it down the road, in a line that's completely comfortable, it just walks. But with her ears were back the entire time as we made our approach to her, and we didn't drive up directly behind her, we drove next to her. And she kept giving me the over-the-shoulder look. Just a brief glance, but enough to tell me that she wasn't entirely, she wasn't uncomfortable, just not entirely happy, I guess. Let's catch up with her. It could easily be external circumstances as well. It could be nothing to do with me personally, or it could be that she's had a bad experience with a vehicle recently. It's impossible for us to really tell. Sometimes you just get a gut instinct, and I'm sure it's purely based on observation. I'm sure it's purely based on what you're seeing in that animal. But to me, because it's so subconscious, it's almost a gut feel. I'm going to keep following her for a little bit just to find out where she's going and why she's on her own. Let's send you back across to Brent, who succeeded in his mission. He said he was going to find a female cheetah this morning, at least he said it to me. Let's go and rejoin him and her.
Welcome back. I'm not sure who this is. Do any of you guys have any ideas? Hashtag Safari Live. If you know which cheetah this is. Manu, who did you think it was? Nasi Toy. I don't think I've ever heard of Nasi Toy before. James Rissett said it's Nashipa. Nashipa, Musiara's daughter. Oh, it's a new cheetah for me. Thanks, James. No, cheetah, don't go that way. Apparently she was seen with Scott about 2 weeks ago. Manu was there. Come on, Manu, can't you recognize a cheetah 2 weeks later? I mean, really, Manu? Cameraman these days. As I said, unfortunately, she is heading towards a gremlin area. I'm going to try to stick with her by staying up on the ridge. And while she's walking, you can see some birds in the background for the birders. There's some white storks. Oh, there's a baby topi. You see the baby topi? Oh, if she spots that. And at the moment, she is being escorted along by some male topi that are running towards her and snorting at her. We're going to try to keep up with her. I'm just going to go test the gremlins a little bit lower down. While we do that, it sounds like Ralph has an amphibious tank.
Okay, folks, we're just trying to get a little bit of an update on Scuba Steve. Yesterday, James found him here in the little pan, but it looks like he's gone AWOL. But his lovely lady friend seems to have hung around. So I wonder what's happened to Scuba Steve. Unless, alternatively, he might just be underwater. But I don't think he would be underwater for so long. But this seems to be his lady friend. And we'll confirm that when she comes up again. You'll see that pinkness around her eyes. And she's not as shy as our Scuba Steve was. He was just showing his nostrils. When she does come up, you'll see she does sort of give us a little bit of a hairy eyeball, whereas Scuba Steve merely exhibits those nostrils. But let's wait and see. She will have to come up quite shortly. They would have been out grazing last night, I'm sure, and maybe Steve has gone walkabout. With the weather being like this, it's quite cool. You can sometimes find the hippos maybe continue grazing a little bit during the day as well. So it's not out of the question that Scuba Steve is on the prowl. Maybe he's not too happy with this lady friend of his. But there she comes, showing her head. You see that pinkness around the eyes. When we get to see Scuba Steve, I'll show you how much darker he is around the eyes. So quite an easy little way to sex the hippos. Now, we were discussing last night around the dinner table what those hairs are around the nostrils and what would be their purpose. And the expert opinion was that it is actually remnants of their evolutionary sort of divide, where they came from the sort of manatees and dugongs, and that would be used for when they were feeding underwater and helping them to find, in opaque or dark, clarity water, they would be able to feel the grass. Folks, we're just going to cut over to Brent with some topi.
We are still with Nasatoy, the female cheetah. She has spotted two baby topi. She's now changed her direction and she is heading towards them. It's going to be interesting to see what she does from here. You can see all the white stalks. You can see she's slowing down a little bit. There the two baby topi are. Now, a baby topi is a perfect sized meal for a female cheetah. But she does have to contend with the females. And those baby topi can be quite quick, even at a young age. Alice, are we ready for action broadcast? Well, welcome everyone. We are live from the Masai Mara with Nasito. Oh no, Manu's confused me about Nashipai, the female cheetah, and she's getting very close to a couple of baby topi. Now, a baby topi is the perfect sized meal for her. So there she is. There, the baby topi. The mums are aware that she is there, but a young topi might still be an easier target than an adult Thompson's gazelle or adult topi, which might be a bit big for a female cheetah all by herself. Cheetah Lahia would like to know how close can she get to them before chasing. I'm sorry, I wonder if she spotted a hyena or something. She looks distracted away from the babies to something back up the valley. It could be the Thompson's gazelles running around and chasing each other. But there were quite a few hyena around. Now, if there is a hyena around, she might not hunt because the chances of her losing her kill to the hyenas will be very, very high. She's still staring up the valley. I can't see anything. Mystic says, I'm sure to the baby topi, run, little deer, run. No, I'm not sure whether you mean deer as in D-E-A-R or deer as in D-E-E-R, but there are no D-E-E-R deer here in Africa. The only naturally occurring ones are in Morocco, and they are red deer. Here we have antelopes. Come on, and she's worried about something back up the valley. We can't see what it is at the moment. Just in the middle of those croton thickets there, Manu, behind the white stalk, I think that's what she spotted. A little bit to the right. Is that a hyena in there? A little bit more to the right. No, it's a log. So even though she's been spotted by the topi, and the female topi are slowly moving the babies away, but that doesn't mean she isn't going to charge in after them. There we go. She looks like she's back focused on the baby topi. Hello, Sue in Sydney. Sue's just saying hello from Sydney. Good to have you with us, Sue. There, the little topi. No, there were two. Where's the other one gone? Oh, there it is. Oh, lying down. That's not a good idea. Little topies. It's going to make you a little bit slower to get up and get on the move. But she still seems distracted by something in the valley. You see a hyena? No, that's a topi. So that's not what's distracting her. Oh, she's up. Heading towards the baby topi. Okay, so she's going to try to get as close as possible. The closer she can get, the better, before she starts her run. Now, a topi is a big animal. It might try to defend. Okay, look at this. You can see how her body posture's changed. She's into the full stalk now. we go. She's getting as close as possible. There's going to be soon she's going to explode. She's probably only about 40, 50 meters away from the babies. There they are. There we go. She's watching. Now the mother topies might defend against her, and she's looking like she's a bit scared. Oh no, she's going to try a different approach. Here she goes. There we go. She's starting. She's not really going at full speed. She's just sort of jogging. That was a bit useless. That wasn't a very fast charge. The baby topi have escaped. But she did look a little bit nervous about getting too close to the adults. Now, topi can charge into... Oh, there's more babies up ahead. But they're already running away. Well, that was a bit of a weak attempt. I think she might have been a bit worried about taking an injury from one of the adults. But she's definitely going to carry on moving for now. Well, we will stick with it. Wait, is she going into the thickets now? Holden is wondering does she still have a chance of getting her food? Not those topi, Holden. Maybe some other ones down the road somewhere. But those ones have made good their escape and put big distance between her and them. Now, it's amazing. So different cheetah have different strategies and how they operate. And of course, being a single cheetah, she'll have a very different outlook from the 5 boys. But I'm afraid it looks like she's going to miss breakfast this time. But she could catch in a little bit. Where has she disappeared to, Manu? She's gone into the thickets. Now, let's just wait a little bit longer, because sometimes they're reedbuck that live in those thickets. And Manu was telling me a bit earlier that one of her strategies is to actually sort of walk through these thickets trying to flush stuff. And it's a white stalk on the other side. Debbie's wondering, will she go after those large birds? It's a possibility, Debbie, but highly unlikely. The birds being able to take flight makes them a very difficult thing to get close to. Okay, well, we're going to go see if we can get a bit closer to her. We will be sticking with her, so there's always a chance she might hunt again. So keep a lookout for these live notifications, because you never know what's going to happen next in the African bush. So from Manu and myself, hopefully we will see you in a little bit. Oh, that was quite exciting. And I know a lot of people would have been rooting for the baby topi. Now, just go a little bit to the right there, Manu. I just want to see. You spotted her? Just the topi, just all the way to the end of the gardenia, because the topi are acting like she's about to pop out and they're jumping about a bit. So she could be quite close there. And I said, unfortunately, we can't get any closer. That's a gremlin-inhabited valley. There she is. But also, sometimes it's quite nice to sit at a distance and watch. You definitely get a bigger and better idea of everything that's going on. Okay, well, we're going to stick with her for a bit longer. I'm going to keep trying to follow the ridge opposite her for as long as possible till the gremlins overtake me and Kirsten shouts at me. But while we do that, let's go across to Jamie.
I completely forgot how far Black Rock is away. We're still getting there, but there's something I want to show you. Lappet-faced vultures and their nest sites. For the largest vulture species, they do choose the strangest trees. They nest on top of gardenias. And there's one, I've mentioned it before, those of you who watch regularly will remember, that one of them has, or a pair of them, have built a nest above one of the musketeers' favourite scent marking spots. So the 5 cheetah boys. And it gets disturbed every single time that those boys come past. It's actually quite hilarious. It gets all sort of ruffled and out of sorts. But it's an interesting thing to see out here. That they choose to nest for such a large bird. They choose to nest on, I suppose it does make sense in a way. It's a very dense tree. Oh, beautiful. I'm sorry, I'm not insulting your nest site. So a species of vulture that is termed somewhat in a way that's quite a cliche, termed a tin opener. You can see they've got really, really powerful beaks, and they use that to open up carcasses. And a lot of the time the other vulture species will wait until the lappet-faced vultures emerge from wherever they happen to be and find a carcass in order for them to open it up. Oh, am I boring you, bird on the right? Not the most attractive of birds, but absolutely essential out here in terms of, especially during the migration, removing the amount of rotten carcasses or rotting carcasses. The vast number of wildebeest that are killed and don't get eaten by anything else except the number of vultures out here. I can't see any sign of the nest, but that is where they nest, on the tops of gardenias. Can you see a nest? I can't quite tell if that's just a tree or a nest. I think there's a nest there. I'm almost certain. Now what they will be doing, of course, is waiting for the morning to heat up. They really are very, very bulky, very heavy birds. So they need the hot air to start rising in order to take off and soar in a more energy efficient way. So thermaling, using the hot air currents to hold themselves aloft with their enormous wingspan. Aww, obtuse Willie, you say a face only a mother could love. I can't really rebuff that at all. That is entirely fair. Of course, it all makes sense so that they don't have feathers around their heads. They can stick it into their heads into rotting carcasses without getting completely coated in muck. And they're actually quite clean. After they've gone and fed on a carcass, they'll find themselves some water and they'll go and wash themselves off properly. They are cleanish birds, but I agree. They're not beautiful, are they? When you compare them to the lilac-breasted rollers of the world, they don't stand out as hugely attractive, but very, very practical. And in their own way, quite awe-inspiring, I guess. It was amazing to me in Uganda that we got so used to seeing palm nut vultures that they were almost sort of we were blasé about it. Oh look, another palm nut vulture. Also known as a, Craig? Indeed, a parmalot vulture. The parmalot vulture. It was a slight misunderstanding. Philip, the situations where a vulture would hunt if food is scarce are it's very, very rare. They're not really able to hunt, and the reason that they're not really able to hunt is that they are, and I'm talking specifically about African species of vulture, they are very big and very bulky, and it's not something that they are capable of achieving that necessary turn of speed and agility that the hunting birds of prey have. They don't really, they're not able to do. What they do though is they will steal from other birds. So something like the parmalot vulture, also known as the palm nut vulture, will steal quite frequently from something like a fish eagle, especially because they do spend a lot of time around water. Hence their other name, the vulturine fish eagle. But no, our species of vultures don't really hunt. And you say when food is scarce, but bear in mind that a vulture can travel a good couple of 100 kilometers in a day if they find themselves on a good thermal, if they're heading in the right direction, if it's worth their while. I know that a lot of, I don't want to say experiments, that's the wrong word, a lot of research has been done, some of which the research process actually involved putting a tracking collar on the backs of vultures between their wings. And the researchers, the biologists, were absolutely astounded at the distance that vultures traveled. If I remember correctly, the article I read was about a Cape vulture. And of course, that sort of research is hugely useful in terms of keeping track and helping to protect a bird species or several bird species that find themselves under threat, particularly from things like power lines. And in South Africa now, I don't think that it happens here all that regularly. I know it does happen occasionally. But one of the tragic things for vultures is poisoned carcasses. In a situation where a farmer, and before you jump to judging the farmer, okay, in certain circumstances, absolutely, it is a terrible thing to do. But in a situation where the farmer doesn't know any better and their livelihood rests upon their livestock, and in a way that I don't think that most of us can really, truly begin to understand, you know, that level of desperation. So they will put carcasses out that are laced with poison in order to catch the livestock thieves. Things like, in their mind, jackal or leopard or something like that. And most of the time it's actually the vultures that fall victim to it. And because that poison is fat stored, even if they recover, as soon as they get a little bit hungry and their body starts to metabolize any kind of fat, it releases the toxin back into their bodies. So it's one of the tragic major threats to vultures, and they're usually the ones that come off the worst out of all species when poison carcasses are put down. I know it's happened here in the past, but it's something that authorities are fighting against. Unfortunately, in an area like this, they'll be absolutely safe. But how do you protect a bird? How do you stop a bird from going places where it's not safe? Lovely question from Lily, our 6-year-old viewer. Lily, it's lovely to hear your name again. So Lily's becoming a regular viewer. Now Lily wants to know if vultures will mate for life. They can mate for life. They are monogamous to a degree. So monogamous, in other words, they mate with each other, they form that pair bond, and they raise their babies together. I'm going to keep racing off in the direction of the Black Rock Pride Den. Keep your fingers crossed that they are there and that they are out and about. But while we head in that direction, let's send you across to Ralph, who's made his way to a different type of den site entirely.
Howdy folks, sorry, we've just come in here and we're at the hyena den, but the little youngster, he's very curious and he's just coming and having a sniff of the vehicle, and I think he might be thinking about having a little bite on our tyres. So I don't want him to get into that habit. So if he does make out like that, I just give a little bit of a tap next to the vehicle, just to because we don't want him getting into that habit of biting on the tyres. But now we've unfortunately lost him underneath the vehicle. Where has he gone?
Sniffing the front bumper.
He's sniffing the front bumper. So it's one of the youngsters, and everybody's been saying that it might be quite a possibility that this little youngster has actually killed the other one. He's moving around right in front of the nose. I don't particularly want to start up, but if he continues walking around like that, I might just have to start the vehicle up. That will just move him away a little bit. Obviously, I won't move until I can see him, or her, it probably is. With it having possibly killed one of the other little youngsters, it's normally then one of the dominant females young that this one is also then one of the dominant ones. And with those kind of dominant structures within hyenas, that's how ruthless they can be. Even as young as they are, they would even still kill their siblings to maintain dominance. And sometimes also when the resources are very low, that's what they can do too. Now, at present, everybody was a little bit worried about their condition as well. But it might have been towards the end of a very long, dry winter. Resources were not... he's over on this side again. No biting, buddy. No biting. You can sniff, but no biting, hey? What happens is they sort of get to the point where once they test that tire, it's quite a nice rubbery, it's almost like a chew with a little baby, it's nice for their teeth, so they would then enjoy chewing on your tires. But you don't want adult hyenas coming and chewing on your tires. They'll bite it right off its rims, so we don't want them forming habits as little youngsters like this, because there will be vehicles around them in future, and we do try and just maintain the ethical standards as we would like to keep them. But as I was saying, with the resources being very low at the end of a long dry winter, the condition of the youngsters was looking a little bit scraggly, and that might have been because mommy was not getting that much food for them. But now with the calves of the Impala coming, it might improve. Philip, and a very interesting question. What is there more the ratio between males and females? Quality of diet, or due to canism? Quite an extensive question, that. And here we go. It's the youngsters just left our tyre alone for the time being. It's come off onto the right there. So, Philip, yes, very good question. There definitely is more females within the greater population of hyenas, and it can be to do with both of those reasons. Firstly, with the canism, with them killing the younger, or very often the less dominant of the structural youngsters, because you must remember the dominant female, her young will take on her dominance as well, and then press that down. It's almost like a sort of hierarchical kingdom, and they maintain that dominance. So the females are bigger and stronger than the males already. So they will grow faster, they will get stronger than them, and yes, if there's a dominant female, she can very easily attack and kill, as youngsters, attack and kill the younger males, and it's only the stronger males that will sort of come through. But the males in hyenas are more tolerated than accepted in any way, because it's the females that honestly dominate the entire structure. They are the most powerful in terms of body shape and size, and they also dominate the entire sort of hierarchy within the clan. So the males are sort of pushed off to the side and only really around to assist with the hunting and with the with the group, but they're just a useful amenity. They're not really around for anything else. I wouldn't like to be a male hyena, to be honest. But absolutely, Philip, there would definitely be more females within the structural hierarchy of hyenas, for both those reasons. And with the resources as well, the females, they would probably also be taking a lot more of the food. So the males then do lose out, and the females get stronger and bigger with the food and the resources, and the males would get weaker as it goes on. And it's the same with the youngsters like this. As soon as there's one that is a bit subordinate and weaker, he gets less food. It's sort of a knock-on effect. So he does get less and less, and it can become worse and worse for him, and eventually he can get killed. It's looking a little bit weak, folks, and I do share your concern, but my feeling is that, you know, the dropping of the young hyena at this, the dropping of the young impala at this particular time couldn't have come at a better time. That's where I was going with that story, is that the resources have been at an ultimate low, so mommy would possibly be getting a bit more food at present, and hopefully bringing a little bit back more for the youngsters. So hopefully we should see this condition change, but you never know, maybe it did go a step too far. Whether the mother has gone missing, it's tough to tell. We haven't really seen any, been able to circle around here for all the tracks. But she might be inside there. She maybe not. Folks, it's the laws of nature. We can't step in here. Whether she is actually in the den or not, we hope so, because maybe she's returned from a night foraging. But yeah, such is life, huh? It's the circle, and we can't interfere. Okay, folks, with that note, we continue on. We're going to go looking for something else after we've left this little pup. But I do believe that Tristan might have some bovines for you.
We do indeed. So our bushwalk has been fraught with all kinds of interesting things in the large animal department today. We've had elephant audio, we've had lion tracks, and now we've even got a big herd of buffalo, which is so exciting. It's so good to see these guys again, even though it's on foot and we are far away from them. Obviously with buffalo we need to be very careful, and from here to where they are, there's absolutely no cover for us whatsoever, and so there's no real way that I can get to them from now. So I want to wait for them to finish drinking and moving up the hill. But isn't it great to have a herd of buffalo back on Djuma, and not even a small herd. This is a rather sizable herd. I'd say there's probably about 50 of them, maybe a little bit more than that, but it's nice to see females and bulls and cows. And what this means is that hopefully we're going to get a situation where a couple of the bulls are going to be left behind. Now, Kirsty alerted us to the fact that they came down to drink, but we were actually busy on tracks for lions that were coming in this direction. There's a very fresh track for a female with her cubs, and so I wonder if maybe the Nkuhuma pride is not somewhere in this area and watching these buffalo. And so it's a good idea just to try and stick with these buffalo as much as we can for the morning. Of course, when lions hunt buffalo, it's not a place you want to be that much, because complete chaos will explode if lions do hunt them. But from the distance that we're at the moment, we should be okay for now. So it's just watching and just trying to see if there isn't a lion stalking in somewhere from this general direction. If there's any lion within a sort of radius of these buffalo that is not too far, you're going to find them here now. There's been so few buffalo around that I would be very surprised if the Angama pride is not somewhere in this general vicinity, or even the Styx pride. If they hear buffalo, they're going to come for them, because it's been such a sort of skinny period with very few buffalo for these guys to be able to hunt. And so as soon as a herd like this arrives, from what we've seen during the winter, is that the Angama pride is never very far, or the Birmingham males never very far behind. And so great to see them back again. It also means that we need to start keeping our eyes open. You can see the one buffalo is actually seeing us at the moment. You see the one in the middle down by the water. It's currently got its head up, its nose is to the air, so it's scenting us, it's looking. It probably can see us in all likelihood, but the distance that we're at the moment, it doesn't perceive us as a threat. The other thing is, when you walk buffalo like this, it can be obviously very dangerous, and they are an animal that we often are the most worried about when we're on foot. So when you're walking around, you pay attention for things like buffalo, because they can be super dangerous. But the thing is, when they're in big groupings like this, generally they're actually not too bad. They generally have a lot more calm demeanor, because they know they've got safety in numbers. As soon as they're on their own, that's what makes them a lot more dangerous, is because they know they don't have the ability to be able to defend themselves as well as when they're in herd, and that makes them that much more aggressive. But there's definitely a nice size herd here, and they're slowly drifting along. Looks like they're going to head along towards sort of central Gari Cutline, and it'll be wonderful if they spend the day on Djuma. Like I say, when bull buffalo are in parts of herds like this, you will find some that will decide, well, at the end of the day, this is a nice area, it's got water, it's got grazing, I'm not going to carry on with the herd, and you'll then get them staying behind. So it's great news for us, and hopefully signifies a return of the buffalo to Djuma. It's been a long absence. We haven't seen a herd like this, I don't think, since last year, which is a long period since we last saw big herd. So it's great to see them. Emily, you're wondering how large herds can get. Well, it depends on the area that you're in, but here in the Sabi Sands, the largest herd that I've personally seen was well over 1,000 buffalo. That was in the central parts of the Sabi Sands, so around Singita, Londolozi. There's big open clearings there, and there's big herd that moves around in that section. So that was well over 1,000 at one point. So that's the biggest I've seen personally in the Sabi Sands. I have heard of records of herds going up closer to 2,000 in the Sabi Sands, but I have never personally seen